welcome back. Let's get on to step 2 for this project. The first one was to cut out your slab and have your base. So now that we have that, we're gonna start building up now. So we are coil building for this project, which means we all need to learn how to roll coils. So let's set this aside. And the first thing that we're gonna do is cut up some more clay. So please get that block of clay that you guys cut for your base, okay? So use the same one. And then get your makeshift wire tool out. That's the 2 paper clips and fishing line. It's hard to see in the video, but it's here. All right, and what we're gonna do is cut this into 6 pieces. So if you guys need a visual really quickly, let me cut this for you if I can find any of my tools ever. There it is, under the paper. All right, so I'm gonna make some rough lines on here. They do not need to be perfectly even or neat. I'm just doing it to show you guys. I'm cutting it into 6 pieces. So that is 2 going one way and then 1 long way. So 2 going the short way and then 1 going long way. That's gonna give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. All right, so that is what I'm cutting. And I'm actually going to just use this to cut. I'm gonna just lay these right on top of those lines, flip it over, pull it out. And then take that dry clay off by just squeezing it in your hand with the fishing line. And then I'm gonna cut those second 2 marks. All right, 1 more cut. All right, get that clay off. And now you're gonna have it cut into 6 different sections. All right, so these are going to be our starting points for coils. So you have all 6 of these now. Take 1. So I'm just gonna take this first one. I'm gonna put the rest of these in this bag. I'm not fully gonna store them yet. I'm just putting them in here so they don't dry out. So I don't want them out in the air. I want them in a bag so they're not having a chance to dry out. So if you guys remember from our very first project, you already rolled a couple of coils. We rolled a coil for our mug handle and we rolled a coil for our foot. The only difference now is that that's going to be the entire way we're building. So it's important that you practice now and you get it down in these beginning stages of the project. So that way if you have any questions, we can schedule a video call or I can show you some alternative videos and some helpful tips and tricks and stuff like that. So please, if you don't get coils today, no worries. You have time to practice. I'll be rolling coils with you guys every day for at least a week, okay? So the first thing you're gonna do is take your block of clay and we're rolling coils, which means we need them to be round. So let's take this first one. Now you just like to gently push into the edges here just to make it a little bit less sharp angles, I still don't think I said that grammatically correct, but you guys know what I mean. So I'm just gently pushing into those 4 edges that rectangles have that go all the way through. And now it's already starting to look a little bit more rounder and less geometric. You can also kind of pinch it in your hands a little bit if that helps. Maybe gently roll it in your hand to try and get it a more round shape. But you want to start out with something that looks a little bit more like this and less geometrical. Okay, so if you saw me earlier, I was kind of wiping off my newspaper just so, because I don't want any dry clay crumbs on this because they will stick to this and then be in my clay. The way that we're gonna roll coils is you need to start with the tips of your fingers and roll through to the base of your palm. And then go back to the tips of your fingers and then go back through with the base of your palm. So essentially, kind of what we did with the PVC pipe, all right? So tips of your fingers through to your palm. Back to your fingers, back to your palm. So that is the rolling motion. I prefer to do it with 1 hand, but you can also do it with 2 hands, just the same thing. So you just take the tips of your fingers and go through and back, through and back. I personally don't have success doing it 2-handed just because you do need to do even pressure and then you're gonna start to slowly go out this way and that's where mine always break. So I have found that doing it 1-handed works better for me. So what I'm gonna do is use my right hand, my dominant hand, to roll, and then I'm gonna hold the newspaper down here. I want you guys to roll on the newspaper because I don't want you getting dry clay all over wherever you're working in your home, okay? So just get the dry clay on the newspaper so that way we can get rid of the crumbs and try to control what is going on your furniture. All right, so I'm holding the newspaper here. My clay's right here in the middle. I know it's kind of hard to tell, this is really busy paper. And I'm just gonna gently roll. Right now I'm not adding any pressure. I'm just trying to roll it and get it to a round shape. Just slowly trying to roll it. And then once I feel like it's rolling pretty good, that's when I'm gonna start to add a little bit of pressure from one end. So remember, you're trying to do even pressure. And I'm going gentle first. I'm adding a slight bit of pressure, but nothing crazy. And then your newspaper doesn't want to stay. So go even pressure. And you're gonna go from one end to another. If your newspaper bunches up like that, no worries. It happens. Just stop and start over. But you can see mine starting to get longer. And I'm just working from one end to another. Sorry, my newspaper is being problematic today. And then you're eventually going to roll a coil. Don't worry, I'm going to show that again. The newspaper was bunching up a bunch and a couple of people came in my room, so I was a little distracted. We're going to do it one more time just because I want to make sure you guys know how to roll coil. It's the most important part of this project. All right? You want your coil size to be between your pinky and your thumb. So what I mean by that is when I put my pinky up to this, it's about the same width. When I put my thumb up to this, it's a little bit smaller than my thumb. Okay? I don't want to go bigger than my thumb, and that's just kind of what I would say for everyone is don't go bigger than your thumb. If pieces are too big, they start to there's just more potential for it to blow up in the kiln because it won't be fully dry, and so on and so forth. And we don't want any explosions. So just be really careful. You want to watch the thickness. Once it gets to about a pinky size, I would just stop. If you're worried about the size of it, the shape of it, anything like that, just send me a message with a picture of it, and I'd be happy to help you or let you know if it's a good coil. All right, so mine is a little wonky and uneven. That's just because the newspaper kept bunching up, so I'm gonna try and even this out a little bit just so I can use it and not waste it. All right, so that's a little bit better. I still have a weak spot in the middle, but this is okay. All right, so that is one coil, and then what I would like you to do now is get another block. We're just gonna practice again, okay? So same thing, if you guys can remember the steps on your own, getting rid of those edges first. So all 4 of those edges that a rectangle has, I'm just using my thumb and I am gently pushing into it. That way I get rid of those harsh edges. Again, it's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be round just based off that. It's just gonna help it not be such a geometric shape. I kind of gently roll it in my hand just to get it a little bit rounder. And it's much easier to roll this shape than it is to roll a rectangle. All right, same thing. Again, I'm gonna try to keep my paper from bunching, but it's probably gonna keep bunching. I'm just gonna gently roll with my hands right here, just trying to make sure that it's round and that it'll go through. And then once I feel like it's rolling pretty easily, that's when I'm gonna add pressure. So again, going from the tips of my fingers all the way through to my palm. Back to my fingers, back to my palm. You need to make sure to do a whole motion, because if you're only doing your fingers, it's just gonna flip-flop back and forth and turn into a flat shape, okay? I would say that's the #1 problem students have, even me sometimes, is that you just accidentally get it flat and then you're just kind of flopping this rectangular piece back and forth like that instead of going through and rolling. All right, so tips of your fingers all the way through. Now we're gonna start to add pressure. So I'm adding pressure from one end and I'm gonna try and go through to the other. So that end's doing really good. Another thing I like to recommend is sometimes this is just too big of a piece to roll, and there's nothing wrong with cutting it in half and doing only half of it. All right, we're coil building this entire thing, which means we're gonna have to slip and score everything together anyways. So if you have to attach 2 pieces together to make a long enough one, no worries. It is a lot easier to roll smaller pieces. So if this is too long for you, or you keep making it flat and it's not working, no worries. Take it apart and only roll half of it, okay? It's a lot easier to roll half because it's smaller, it's less weight that you have to carry and push through. And again, I want you guys to try and get it about your pinky or your thumb. I would choose the thickness that you want to do. but you're trying to roll the same thickness for all of them. So this is the first coil I rolled, and this is my second one at the top. They're about the same thickness, so I'm gonna leave that alone and just set it aside right now. I'm gonna take this other block, this new half that we have, and I'm gonna practice rolling this one. And I'm just gonna start from one end, and you have to kind of carry it through to the other end as it gets longer. So you're starting from one end, and you're carrying the even pressure all the way through to the other side. All right? That way, you're following it as it gets longer, and you're applying the same amount of pressure, keeping it even. All right, so this one gets a little thin on this end, if you guys can see that. That's totally fine. Obviously, we're just gonna cut it right there, so that way it is the same thickness. But now I wanna show you all three of my coils. They're pretty similar in width. I want them all to be about the size of my pinky. All right, the width of my pinky, okay? So that is your only goal for today, is just to learn how to roll coils on your own. And then, as you can tell, let me get closer, it's cracking quite a bit. We've done a lot to this clay. We cut it up, we took it from its shape, and then we rolled it. So this clay's gone through a lot. So I would recommend just kind of rehydrating it with your sponge or your hand and some water, and just getting rid of those cracks. You need to be really, really gentle. You don't want to accidentally push it through or break it. Again, if it breaks, no worries. It was probably a weak spot anyways, and we can always fix it later. I wouldn't just scrap any of these, because as you guys can tell, we have a limited amount of clay left now that we're in Q4. So don't just scrap anything unless it's like teeny tiny and super fragile and just breaks all the time. All right, then I'd say you can get rid of it. But most of the time we can reattach coils together, like how I broke these two apart. I can still attach these together and use them. Okay, so that's the only thing I wanted to do in this class with you guys today. To store these, we're not attaching them yet. So remember, in ceramics, we have to slip and score everything together. We're not doing that yet. I'm gonna make a whole new video on that, and we're also gonna do it in class pretty much every day. So to store these, if you guys have some good coils rolled out, I'm just going to, sorry, let me try to get this in the video. So take your base. Remember, we all rolled out our base. I want you guys to just take your coil and wrap it around the shape of your base. This is not attaching, okay? I do not want you to think that these are mended together. They are not. If you do not slip and score, they will not be attached. So the only thing we're doing is doing this to store it. Take your coil, wrap it around. We're just trying to get it to mimic the shape we want, so that way, if for some reason it does dry out, because you know we have a 3-day weekend coming up, or maybe you just haven't started and there's a weekend, like there's lots of reasons your clay could dry out longer than it is. So let's say, excuse me. Excuse me, sorry. Lots of reasons your clay could dry out, so that's why I'm wrapping it to the shape that I have now. It's a lot harder to pull and bend a coil after it's been straight for 3 days than it is to have one that's already the shape of it. So this is what mine looks like. Looks like a bunch of little pieces on top of each other. That's it, okay? And then you're going to store this in your project bag. So get your project bag out. If you have your mug in there still, take it out, let it breathe, it's okay. And we are spraying these. Make sure to spray these. We're in the beginning stages of a project, which means they need to stay wet for at least another 2 to 3 weeks until we get through this project, okay? So please spray your piece, spray your bag. If you don't have a spray bottle, take your sponge, wring it out a little bit, and then just wring out some water in here, all right? And then you're going to make sure to put the flap underneath your board so the weight of your project holds it down, okay? And then of course, regular cleanup, clean up any of your tools in the water, put them back in your bag. Make sure your slip is ready to go. We're gonna need this for every single day for this project from here on out. So add water to your slip, let it sit overnight, and it's gonna be ready to go for you tomorrow. Since we've been rolling on this newspaper, you do need to pick it up. Once you pick it up, all the little crumbs will go to that center fold there, and go dump this outside or in a trash with a lid on it. This is all the stuff we don't wanna breathe in, okay? Roll that up and put it in here. If you guys have scrap clay, put it in here. I just have my slab piece in here and then spray it so it stays wet. Very important is that we put our good clay away. Again, spray it. My other blocks of clay are in here too, so those are what I'm gonna use to roll out the rest of my coils. Keep those in there. Make sure you spray it. We need to hydrate this water. Fold it down and put your binder clip back on it. And then put that in your brown bag as well. And clean up off any tools that you use. So I pretty much just use my paper clip and my little wire cutter today. Clean them off, put them away. Clean off your sponge. Put it in your bag. Zip it up and put it away. Make sure your slip goes in here as well, very important. Lay it down flat. And then dump your water outside. Remember, never dump this down your drain. I say it every day, but this clay will solidify and clog your drains potentially. So dump this outside. Do not dump it down your drains. All right? And then wipe off your station and you're good to go. If you guys have any questions at all, please message me. I'm here to help you. I do not care how far behind you are. If you are behind, I will help you get back on track, okay? So please message me through Teams, email. You can even video call me, whichever way works best for you, okay? So thank you guys. Have a good day.